For decades, the world was sold a terrifying myth: the Iranian lion, a fearsome beast whose roar echoed from the Caspian Sea to the Persian Gulf. Iran spent years meticulously crafting this image of a dominant regional power, an identity built on the perception of an unbreakable military will and a devastating arsenal on a hair trigger, augmented by its asymmetric forces. Its leaders hurled threats that kept the entire Middle East on a knife's edge, promising a crushing response to any attack and vowing to strangle the global economy by closing the Strait of Hormuz. But what was this power actually built on, and how would the lion truly perform when it is attacked? In February 2026, the world got the definitive answer. Iran's strength was once again on display in a firestorm of missiles and airstrikes. Now, it's easy to get trapped in an ideological echo chamber where supporters of one side simply talk up their team. But we're going to ignore that and focus on the objective results of the war. This is Alpha Signal. Beyond the headlines, beneath the lies. To understand Iran's catastrophic failure in 2026, we must first understand its grand strategy. This wasn't just about stockpiling weapons. It was a masterclass in psychological warfare, perfected over years of being a global pariah. The very idea of Iranian power became its greatest weapon, a shield forged from perception. The crown jewel of this strategy was its massive ballistic missile arsenal, the largest and most diverse in the Middle East. With an air force flying ancient museum-piece jets from the 1970s, Iran poured every spare dollar into a missile program it believed could level the playing field. On paper, the numbers were terrifying, with weapons capable of striking Israel and US bases across the entire region. These were squirreled away in hardened, underground missile cities and constantly moved on mobile launchers, creating the illusion of an unstoppable retaliatory force that could survive any first strike. To guard its skies, Iran showed off a mix of foreign systems, like the Russian S-300, and its own domestic defenses to project an image of an impenetrable fortress. Then came the drones. Iran became the master of cheap, disposable, one-way attack drones, the infamous Shahed series, a playbook now copied worldwide. Finally, there was the axis of resistance. Iran's network of proxy forces, Hezbollah in Lebanon, powerful militias in Iraq and Syria, and the Houthis in Yemen, was the bedrock of its forward defense doctrine. This strategy let Iran project power and wage war far from its own soil. The theory was simple. If a major conflict ever ignited, these groups would instantly open a dozen new fronts, while Iran's navy held the Strait of Hormuz hostage, where nearly a fifth of the world's oil flows. That meticulously crafted strategy of fear was obliterated in late February 2026 when a coordinated US-Israeli campaign, codenamed Operation Epic Fury, exposed its true capabilities. The ineffectiveness of Iran's conventional forces was laid bare for the world to see. Its vaunted surface-to-air missile network, built around systems like the Russian S-300, was supposed to turn its airspace into a death trap. Instead, these systems are proven once again to be useless against the 1-2 punch of sophisticated electronic warfare, fifth-generation stealth fighters, and older fighters. The opening hours of the war drove home a brutal lesson. No matter how many surface-to-air missile defenses there are, they stand little chance against fighter jets. Once the defenders' radars were jammed or destroyed, the missile batteries became little more than useless tubes of metal. With the Iranian air defenses blinded and its ancient air force wiped out on the ground, US and Israeli jets owned the skies. In response to the invasion, Iran launched hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones, lashing out not just at Israel, but at US bases and allied facilities across the region. While the Iranian response proved that it was willing to burn the entire region down, Iran failed to inflict any strategic damage to any of the countries that it targeted. The chaos of the war was punctuated by a single incident that told the entire story of the Iranian military's impotence. Amid the confusion, Kuwaiti air defenses mistakenly shot down 3 US F-15 fighter jets. Let that sink in. An ally, by accident, inflicted more damage on the invading air force than Iran's entire multi-billion-dollar air defense network, which failed to score a single enemy aircraft. This brutal irony proved that even the fog of war was a more lethal threat to American jets than the Iranian military itself. All the televised parades of gleaming missile launchers means nothing when advanced air power could systematically wipe them out. The decapitation of the regime's leadership was a stark signal that its image of untouchable strength was non-existent. Worse, by launching attacks at its Arab neighbors, not just at the US bases, Iran turned the entire region into a free fire zone. This was a catastrophic political blunder, uniting its Sunni neighbors who now see Tehran not as a strategic rival or even a victim of an unprovoked attack, but as a reckless and immediate threat to their own survival. Even as more dust is kicked up by the one-sided beating, some pundits insist that Iran must be holding back and saving its most secret and powerful weapons for another day. This argument suggests that the devastating attacks it suffered were met with a deliberately limited response. The realistic counterargument, however, is brutally simple. If not now, when? A nation does not hold back its best weapons when its supreme leader and leaders are being systematically flatlined, and its command and control centers are being flattened into rubble. The regime was fighting for its very survival. Next, we have pundits giving us the money war argument, claiming that Iran was playing a different game entirely. They argue that by launching swarms of cheap drones and missiles, Iran is forcing the US and Israel to use multi-million-dollar interceptors for every engagement. The goal wasn't to win on the battlefield, but to win a war of economic attrition, draining the enemy's treasury. This view, however, is absolutely naive. It completely ignores the reality on the ground. Iran cannot win a cost exchange war when it is the one being physically flattened, its leadership flatlined, and its military turned to debris. Losing money on expensive interceptors is a problem that can be solved with budget meetings. Losing the entire leadership structure, however, is a completely different issue. The embarrassing 90% interception rate is the direct result of Iran's failure, or inability, to launch an alpha strike against all targets in the opening hours of the war after the supreme leader was taken out. Iran launched its strategic assets in smaller, staggered, easily defeated waves. This approach allowed the sophisticated, multi-layered Allied defenses to engage, rearm, and reset. Did their missile barrages deal damage? Yes. Did it deal damage that could make its enemies think twice? No. So, what would Iran have to do to achieve a break-even against the US and Israel? To inflict a comparable cost, Iran would have to successfully sink US aircraft carriers, take out American and Israeli leaders and scientists, and destroy their economies. The reality is, Iran has no way to do this. The war proved its weapons were far less effective than feared, and its prized missile arsenal failed to land a single decisive blow or even scratch the paint on an American aircraft carrier. It has a total score of 0 fighter jets when the sky is full of targets. In return, it incurred heavy, irreversible, critical damage. Its leadership gone, its military ineffective. This is Alpha Signal. Subscribe for the reality beyond the narrative.